I'd like to tell you a story about my first call as a police officer. I had been on the job for just about 10 minutes, and I was already standing face to face with a man holding a machete. It was my first day in training, and I was in roll call, sitting next to my training officer. Roll call is what happens at the start of a shift. All of the officers for that shift gather in a room, and a sergeant tells them what they need to know before they hit the streets. While the sergeant was talking, dispatch contacted him on the radio and said they had a call pending of an assault with a machete in progress and no units to handle. My training officer said, "We'll take that call." Another officer said he'd back us up. We ran out of the station and to our squad cars, and my training officer said, "I'll drive," because he knew the location of the call. Typically, the trainee drives, so the training officer can observe you. We were rolling code 3, lights and siren, and my training officer says to me, "You're a police officer now. Act like one." I said, "Yes, sir." We arrive at the call in about 5 minutes, no more than that. We exit the squad car, and we hear screaming from the back of the housing project. So my training officer tells dispatch that. They give us what's called the beeper, which is an emergency signal. It's just a beep that goes off every couple of seconds to tell other officers on other calls that aren't an emergency to stay off the air because there's an emergency call in progress. My training officer points to the right and said to me, "Go that way. We're going this way, to the left." I thought, "What? You're sending me that way by myself and y'all are going the opposite way?" But all I said was, "Yes, sir." So I ran down the sidewalk in front of that building, and when I got to the end of the building, I took a left. Again, I'm running toward the screams. I run down the side of the building and take another left. And directly in front of me, about 15 feet away, is a man covered in blood with a machete. I pull out my service weapon. I point it at him and yell, "Police, stop, drop the machete." And he did. He dropped the machete. I remember thinking, of course, a private conversation in my head, why are you listening to me? I'm not even a real police officer. I've been a cop for about 10 minutes and I have no idea what I'm doing. Why are you listening to me? I really couldn't believe he was complying, but he was. I told him to turn around, put his hands behind his head, and he did. I told dispatch, "I've got him, one detained," gave my location. And now a crowd of people are coming toward us, about 20 or 30 people. They're mad at him because of what he just did. I tell them to back off and stay away, and they comply. I walk up behind him, still with my weapon out, and I tell him, "Don't move." And he didn't. I kicked the machete away from him so he couldn't get to it. I put my weapon away, I got him in a control hold, and I cuffed him. All the while that this was happening, I could not believe it was happening because I could not believe that he was listening to me and doing what I told him to do. Couldn't believe it. I went over the air and told dispatch, "One in custody, code for the beeper." Dispatch said copy. My training officer came over the air immediately and said, "Confirming?" She said, "One in custody?" Dispatch said, "Affirmative." The reason my training officer came over the air to ask if he heard that right is he felt the same way I did, which is he could not believe that I actually had the guy in custody. I couldn't either. Now here's the funny part that no one saw, but it was embarrassing. Now that I have him cuffed and in custody, I have to search him to see if he has any more weapons on him. As I was searching him, my right leg, not foot, but leg, was lifting up off the ground and then hitting the sidewalk again, repeatedly. It was thumping on the sidewalk. Thump, 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 thump. That's what it sounded like. And that was happening because I was so nervous and pumped with adrenaline. I thought, girl, you have got to get yourself together and calm down. You are a police officer now, and you look like a clown. That's what I thought. I snapped out of it. I calmed down immediately, and my right foot remained on the sidewalk. Now the crowd that was there, that was chasing him, they started to cheer and applaud me like I was some sort of tough female cop. I wasn't. They had no idea that was my first day. I had been a cop for no more than 10 minutes and had no idea what I was doing. There was nothing special about me, nothing great about me, and I wasn't heroic. Those people in that crowd thought more of me than I thought of myself. I just happened to intercept a murder suspect holding a machete, took him into custody within 10 minutes of being a police officer. I, to this day, cannot believe that story, but it happened. Now that call gave me the confidence that I could handle myself in a chaotic, uncertain, intense situation because I relied on my training, 1, and 2, I lived on the streets for a time as a kid, and I learned how to handle myself in that environment because I had to. So that helped me also. On the drive back to the station to book that guy, my training officer and I laughed about what had just happened. Neither of us could believe it. And he said to me, I guess you took me literally when I said, you're a police officer now. Act like one. I just got lucky, y'all. I just happened to be, I guess, in the right place at the right time. Who'd have thought? Thank you for listening to my story. Take what helps you, leave the rest.